Hey, did you hear the news? The best track in Mario Kart history, being Double Dash's DK Mountain, of course, is finally coming back in Mario Kart Tour as part of the upcoming Animal Tour, and I cannot wait. Especially because it's been nearly 15 years since we last saw this track in a Mario Kart game, being way back in Mario Kart Wii from 2008. Wow, how has it been that long? So I want to talk about this track a little bit, more specifically going over some of the changes we noticed from its last appearance in Mario Kart Wii. So we're going to put the two side by side and compare them and see what else changed. Now before we get to the comparison, two quick things I wanted to note. One is the fact that, as we've seen in some other Mario Kart Tour tracks, there was a very good chance that with it reappearing here, it's likely also going to reappear in part of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's upcoming waves of DLC, and that's freaking awesome, assuming that happens. And it'll probably look very similar to the one on display in Mario Kart Tour, minus a few, visual enhancements and maybe a few other tweaks. Next is the fact that we're not actually using Mario Kart Wii for this comparison. Instead, we're using the website NoClip, which has a perfect perfect importation. Is that a word? They imported the model from Mario Kart Wii, put it on the website, and we can more accurately control the camera there, so we can better recreate the camera angles shown in the trailer for Mario Kart Tour. So that's what we're going to be showing for this comparison as we get to it, starting right now. Alright, so right off the bat, we can see that the overall track is basically the same. You still got the blasting DK barrel, it shoots you up to the angry volcano, you go down some windy S-turns, and eventually across a bridge down here. So that all is well and good. That's what makes this track, part of what makes it so fun is just the really varied design. But we can already see some differences here too, not with the track design so much, but with the overall aesthetics of it. And first up is the fact that the textures all look a bit simpler on the whole. Maybe more natural would be a better way of putting it, but if you take a look at the rock texture here, you can see that it doesn't have the, I almost want to say a gradient or, how the texture changes on the upper half compared to the lower. Instead, it's more of a uniform appearance, and I think overall it's probably for the better. Definitely fits in better with Mario Kart Tour on the whole, and the textures are just a little bit more, again, I don't know if I want to say refined, definitely not as detailed, but I think it does overall look like a more natural environment. That goes for the grass too. You can see it a bit here, we'll see it more later, but of course this goes beyond just texture design, because the overall environment has been maybe dialed back a bit too, and not as obnoxiously in your face. Look at the trees here, for instance. If I hit play on this video, we can see that they don't move around nearly as much, if at all, compared to the original, which are constantly bopping around, because they all have faces on them. These are all like living entities, like actual sentient beings, which is weird, and it seems like that's no longer the case for most of them here, although we'll get back to that later on in the trailer. Okay, now let's get on to some of the bigger changes, and that's the fact that the DK barrel is interesting, because on the one hand, it actually looks better in that it's way rounder, the texture quality is improved, but it's also missing some details too. It's missing the wooden structure supporting it in Mario Kart Wii, which is bizarre because it gives some context for what's holding it up. Now, things float in the Mario games, so it's not really that big of a deal, but it is a little weird that they removed that fun little detail. In addition, they also took out they removed the DK logo from the side of the barrel. Why they did that, I don't know. But it is, another loss of detail that is just a little sad. They also added a boost pad right in front of it, which was lacking in Mario Kart Wii, because you don't really need one with it being a barrel that shoots you. But I don't know, maybe they did this for consistency's sake with other tracks in the game. I didn't go look into it myself, but yeah, for whatever reason they added a boost pad here. Next is the fact that the mountain itself, the angry volcano, is similar, but also notably different. So he's still angry, that's good, but looks like he's got a bit of a haircut. So in the Mario Kart Wii version, he's got this Bart Simpson almost look with these very jagged peaks up top that actually change color to reflect the hot flames coming out. Whereas in Mario Kart Tour, it's more of a uniform flat appearance, both in shape and color, where it no longer seems to reflect the hot temperatures coming out, which is a little sad. And in fact, the smoke coming out too, if we play it, you can see it's clearly just a more uniform color as compared to the very vivid, bright red and yellow at the bottom before turning into a black smoke cloud above, which is such a cool effect, and I don't know why they paired it back here. It's a little disappointing to see them pair it back in that way. Alright, I think that covers mostly it for now. Oh, actually there's one more detail. Speaking of characterization, I already touched on the trees a little bit, but the clouds, I don't know if you can see any of them here, but a lot of these clouds, there's one, there's another. The clouds in Mario Kart Wii have faces on them, and they don't here as well, which isn't a surprise. That's not the first time I think we've seen this change, but I just wanted to note it as well. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the next scene, which is basically in the opposite end of the map, or at least about halfway facing toward where we just were. So we're gonna position the camera right about here in the S-turns, and yeah, that matches up pretty well, I'd say. It's hard to tell if the fence that's on Mario Kart Wii right here is back, but whatever, it doesn't really matter too much. So yeah, we can see the basic shape of the S-turn is back. But one notable inclusion here in Mario Kart Tour as well, is the quarter pipe is also here, which was introduced in Mario Kart Wii, as Double Dash did not have those because they had no need for them. There was no stunt system back then. So it's nice to see that that is in fact back and that they weren't cut or anything. But something else that's been added to them is that there are coins above the quarter pipes now, giving you an extra incentive to use them, not just for the stunt, but to get the coins, to get those, you know, that speed boost, and that's pretty cool. So that gives you another reason to use them beyond just getting the trick. So that's always something I like seeing. Next, we can see there's a row of iron boxes, basically in the same place. I think there are, let's see here, do I have the camera angle right? No, so the iron boxes are similarly placed, but they actually did move them up a little bit. So hold on, let me see if I can get this camera angle right again. I've totally screwed this up. But we can actually see there's two sets of iron boxes in Wii, one right here, then another just a little bit further down the S-turns. Whereas, as far as we can tell, there appears to be only one set maybe right here. So it seems like they've actually reduced the frequency of them a little bit, or they adjusted the pacing of them enough that if there are the same amount of iron boxes, they're spread out a little bit more. Again, it's hard to say for sure, but yeah. Next is a fact, if we adjust the camera again here, we can see, speaking of lack of faces, the mountain in the background right here also has had its face removed. So luckily, our angry volcano, has not had its face chipped away, as with some of the other characters, if you will, in this level and, you know, in Mario Kart in general. Okay, I think that's gonna mostly cover for the S-turns. Again, or rather, don't worry about the lack of boulders in Mario Kart Wii. They are there in the actual game. They were just not included for whatever reason in the no-clip version of the stage. Okay, we're gonna go ahead, I think, and actually we're not gonna move on quite yet, because look at the grass texture here. You can see, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit simpler than the very much more cartoony, more in-your-face version in Mario Kart Wii, and I don't mind that. I always thought that grass texture was a little obnoxious. Almost looks more like a bush, and I don't know if that's really a good look for it, but whatever. In any case, let's move on to the next scene in Mario Kart Tour, and that takes us to another look at the volcano. So we're gonna go back. This is actually interesting. It's actually, I believe, behind the finish line. Is it? Let me think. Yeah, I think it's actually, in fact, we can see the finish line right there. So yes, this is behind the finish line. I'm clipping through the ground here in Mario Kart Wii. Try to ignore that. And they are racing up the hill here. And there we go. And so we can tell that the row of iron boxes just past the finish line is still in the same place as it was in Mario Kart Wii. This general section appears to be the same shape. It looks like that there may be a dirt patch here, which I believe might be similar to the original Double Dash version. I could be misremembering. But overall, not a whole lot's changed here. But we do get a better look at the trees, where you can see how they have faces right here in Mario Kart Wii. In Mario Kart Tour, they do not. Again, at least in this particular spot, or most of the trees do not. In fact, the general trees themselves do look a bit different, now having this fruit on top, whereas they didn't before. They just had the leaves. Okay, and anything else? I mean, we get a better look at the ground texture here, and yeah, that's about the only really major thing of note. So we're gonna move on to the next scene once we get past the animal tour. Okay, so not a whole lot to note here. I don't even know if I want to bother like recreating this. Actually, screw it, I will. I believe this is at, let's see, there should be two you know, quarter pipes in the new version of the track. We only see, I believe, the one of them being this one, which I think is the same one we looked at before, because we can match it up pretty much perfectly right here. So you can see the fence has seen a bit of an update, including it has this more colorful portion, which is nice. But otherwise looks very similar. It does seem like the actual track itself may have been widened a little bit to be closer to the fence, but otherwise it looks to be very similar, again, minus the general aesthetic changes. So we're gonna move on to another scene, a little bit more exciting scene, hopefully. Okay, there we go, that's a good one. We're going off the jump at the top of the mountain right after you take the barrel blast. So the barrel blasts you up here. You go around the corner. Not into the corner. You can go around the corner, over this jump right here, and we're gonna, let's see, pause it. So we get, there we go. Let's see. Okay, so actually let me play it. See, yeah, let's let that scene play out. Okay. Let's back up just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's a pretty good camera angle. So they just went off the jump, and were there still iron boxes there? There were. So yeah, there's still iron boxes at the top of this jump, which was added in this version, by the way, Mario Kart Wii. That wasn't there in Double Dash, so they retained the wooden ramps they added here. And we can see there are more just past it, just as in Mario Kart Wii. And yeah, they're there. They added those for stunts, of course. They did add coins now along those ramps, so giving you another reason to take the ramps rather than going off the beaten track. We can see the mountain in the distance here is once again back as well, the exact same mountain it seems like, although it is lacking again the face and the smoke plume coming out of it, the circular smoke sign, so that's another lost detail. And it looks like there may be, is there like a slight lip now on the left? Check this out, along the left ledge. It seems like there may be a bit of a bump, maybe to help, yeah, it looks like it help keep you in the track, which, I don't know, I'm all about chaos in Mario Kart, so the fact that it might be a little bit easier to stay on track is a little disappointing, although it's almost impossible to fall off here anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Plus, you know, it's Mario Kart Tour, so it naturally is harder to fall off just because of how the steering works in that game. Beyond that, let's see, can we actually see if that fence is... yeah, we can see, so, okay, we can actually see the fence down there, and it seems similar to the fences I think we looked at earlier. Let me see if I can actually zoom in here. Yeah, so I think it looks, it's hard to tell if that's the same fence we looked at earlier or a different fence. And in any case, it's not the same chain link fence from Mario Kart Wii and Double Dash. Alright, that's pretty much it for the changes here, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Okay, so here we are at the next scene, and check this out. This is a bit interesting because we're approaching the finish line from the opposite side as usual. We're racing the track backwards. Now we're actually in basically the same position, essentially as we were in the previous still screenshot we were comparing. But this time, again, we're facing toward the finish line, and I mean, again, we're facing in the same direction. The difference is the cars are going the opposite direction, again, in the opposite path you would normally travel. And that's because we're in the trick variant of the track, which is why we have this new platform here, which wouldn't normally be there, I'm pretty sure. And we can see a bunch of other platforms in the background too, including that one floating right there, some more here, and a long one at the top. So how is this actually going to work? Well, I think I have it mostly figured out. But first off is one other big change besides the fact we're going through the track backwards is you can see there's no bridge that's there in Mario Kart Wii and in the normal version of the track. It seems to have been replaced by some giant blue thing, which we're pretty sure is water, both because that kind of makes sense, but also because there actually is a river located down there in the previous versions of this stage, as we can see here by tilting the camera down. And that's actually pretty cool. It looks like the water level may be rising up a ton in order to effectively cover the bridge or replace it, whatever they're doing here. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a neat little change, assuming what we're seeing here is accurate. Anyways, beyond the puddle of water, actually I should say before the puddle of water, there's actually a jump that seems to lead you right into it as well, because it doesn't seem to be long enough to help you fully clear the gap. It's not a boost jump, so it will likely have you land in that water, wherever that section is, before we enter the next area, which is going to be as you wind up the mountain up to the angry volcano. And as you do so, we can see that there are a multitude of floating platforms as well, which I don't fully know how you get up to yet. There's a jump that gets you up there, or some kind of, I don't know, some other way of reaching them, and I don't even know if that's the required path, because again, you have the lower path as well that you would think would also be just as functional. So I'm not quite sure how they're breaking it up, if you have the choice of both paths or if you are forced into one. Maybe it changes, I don't know. In any case, we can see the platforms likely they are floating generally above the track for the most part. These two look like they're floating out in over the out of bounds area, so that is a little bit different. And again, I don't fully know how these connect. If you go from here to those and then back down, I don't know, it's a little weird. And what's complicating things is the fact that we can actually see a little bit what is at the top of the mountain when you climb up to it, and that's the fact that there seems to be this bridge now extending from the top of the mountain, and it leads now to its own DK barrel, basically on the opposite end. So where you used to land before, if you're launching from the one, you know, further this way where it used to be at the base, is now launching you from the top, from what it seems like. And we're guessing it launches you back down to, you know, where we entered this this corner where we hit this ramp. It's also possible that maybe these jumps connect to this. Maybe it launches you down onto them. Again, it's hard to tell for sure. I don't honestly care that much to sit here and piece it all together. But it's food for thought, too, as you think about how this trick variant might work. But they are definitely changing a lot, which should be interesting. All right, let's get back to the actual track in the next scene here. Because we see, hey, look, we get some trees with faces on them. So let's go ahead and try and match a camera angle here. And this is facing the normal direction as if we had just come from the bridge. So here we go. So look at that. So we got trees with faces in Mario Kart Wii, and sure enough, here they are in Mario Kart Tour, and I love that. They don't seem to be nearly as boppy. They're not moving around at all. But yeah, and we can, oh, what else is cool too is I just realized the Mario Kart sign here, which was also Mario Kart Wii, matches the fences we see elsewhere in the track. So that actually is a nice little thematic tie-in that wasn't there before. We also get another better look at the ground textures. Once again, probably our best look at them here. The general tree design as well, of course, beyond the face is a bit different. And then they also added the starting marks on the ground too. Now if we let it play out, I don't know if there's much else actually going on here. Let's zoom out the camera here a little bit. And the flowers of course have changed as well. And no, I think that's basically it, everyone. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else to go off of. So I think that's it. We've actually wrapped up our look at the track. So there you go. Actually, you know what? I take it back. There's one more thing I wanted to point out. It's super minor thing. It is that though. There we go. We can just barely see it here. Let's zoom in. We can see that it is still the DK cannon, whereas I believe it was just I think it was Donkey Cannon in the Double Dash version of this track. So they kept the sign that they changed in Mario Kart Wii, but they actually dropped the appearance of Donkey Kong from what I can tell. So they also pared that back a little bit, which I just now noticed. So yeah, there you go. Otherwise, you can see, as you've hopefully noticed by now, this is overall basically the same track. Plays the same, looks very similar, minus the, visual upgrade or downgrade in some cases. And it's just nice to have it back. So there you go, everyone. There is our quick breakdown of the new DK Mountain, the new version of DK Mountain coming to Mario Kart Tour. I can't wait to try it out when it hits the game next week, and we'll probably be doing more features on it. So thanks for watching. Let us know what you think of the new version of the track in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.